And welcome back to Watches Tonight. New Year's resolution in hand, we begin 2019 with a bang. I'm your host, Tim Masso. Rolex and Patek Philippe have the night off.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Watch Insider. My name is Brian, and thank you for logging on. I'm joined today by Tim Masso, who you guys all, of course, already know, and we've got some special guests in the building, so please ask some good questions tonight so we can look like we know what we're talking about.
Hello, welcome back. It's Friday. It's the trading desk. This is not Josh Thanos, but you guys know who this is. And
It's me.
For those that don't, your name?
CQ.
Jaeger-LeCoultre. All right. I still love the brand deeply. I still own a vintage Memovox, and I still closely follow JLC rumors. And this year, the rumor is a minute repeater as the flagship. That said, last year the story was the Polaris as the new bedrock sports watch of the JLC line. I would expect to see that collection fleshed out this year with different dials, perhaps some different materials, perhaps some different complications. I expect Polaris to expand and still be the meat of the product focus. I also think that we're going to see a new wave of attention to the Memovox, which has always been one of the signatures of JLC, the Memovox wrist alarm, but it's never really had a signature style. Oh sure, center disc setting and two crowns, but is there really an iconic shape? I think you're going to see the Memovox family evolve this year. What would a reach be for JLC? Well, pie in the sky, let's say a new dual met variant, something completely new. In fact, let's say it's a chiming watch. Let's say the new minute repeater is a dual met. The original twin mainspring barrel, twin drivetrain LeCoultre pocket watch from the 1880s that inspired the modern dual met is a chiming watch. One of its powertrains was dedicated to chiming. So you could see both the minute repeater and a new dual met as one and the same. I would also say it's possible that we might see a new Extreme Lab. This would be the Extreme Lab 3. 2007 we saw the Extreme Lab 1, 2010 we saw the Extreme Lab 2, and in 2014 we actually got to buy it. But I wouldn't be shocked if JLC dovetails the new Extreme Lab with the Polaris collection. It could be both the Extreme Lab 3 and part of the Polaris collection, which would be on brand and at the same time help to advance the state of the art. My wish? Well, pie in the sky, I would say let's combine the obvious, because the Memovox has no signature style. It's a Memovox. It's a mechanism. It's a function, not a look. Let's take the Reverso, the immortal icon of JLC, and use that second dial for a precise setting Memovox that offers something JLC hasn't given us. Let's have a 24-hour setting so it knows the difference between midnight and noon. Let's have an on-off feature with an on-off subdial. Let's have the ability to set to the minute, not just the hour or the 5-minute interval. And finally, let's go big. Let's go like the Glasuta Original Senator Diary. Let me set a date and a time on the calendar 31 days in advance. That's what I would love to see, and a Reverso lends itself to it. I can dream. All right, I can see True Lie joining us. Wrist check, Rolex 16622 right there. We've got a Yachtmaster fan in the box. Mike W joining. Tim finally caught a live session from the start. Thank you so much. I can see Jerome C joining, saying, I know what AP watch would you buy between the Platinum and Rose Gold. Between Platinum and Rose Gold, I am a white metals guy. I like precious metals and base metals in white silvery tones. Naresh Pape greeting me from Toronto. I'm a big fan of Toronto, Naresh. Glad to have my Canadian contingent with me. All right, Piaget. They're a Richemont brand, and believe it or not, they exist. Mostly known these days for sponsoring that guy who plays Deadpool, and yes, a Deadpool chia pet is a thing. I'd rock that. Nice hairdo. But here's the thing. They also make watches, and we don't talk about them often enough, even when they're great. One of the few SIHH brands that has a genuine major milestone and anniversary coming up in 2019. It will mark the homage, in my opinion, we're going to see an homage to the original Yves Piaget 1979 Polo, which is one of the very few 70s style integrated case and bracelet watches that didn't rip off Gerald Genta wholesale. We know that Gerard Perregaux and Rolex and Vacheron all ripped off the Genta style. The Polo was actually its own thing, while being very redolent of that late 70s sensibility. So what I think we're going to see is a tribute to that Polo that's going to be a bit more faithful to the original design and bracelet integration than the hugely controversial 2016 Polo S that, depending on your perspective, was either the Nautilike or the Nauquinaut. but let's just say the non-family resemblance was uncomfortable. I think we're going to see a better and truer polo this year. And it had better be spectacular, because no brand needs a jolt of energy more than Piaget right now. Okay, let's jump into a watch that, quite frankly, is both distinct from any other Neptune and distinct from any other Patek Philippe. This is a watch that really needs to be discussed.
Yeah, so I think that more often than not, we've talked about the Neptunes on the show before. And I think that the most common variation of the Neptune that most consumers probably see is the stainless steel Neptune on a steel bracelet with a salmon dial. I think, again, that happens to be one of my favorite variations of the watch. I also think it's one of the ones that I happen to see the most. This particular watch is just, like, again, it is so crazy that it's awesome. You've got an 18 karat yellow gold case. You've got a black dial. You've got yellow markers, both Romans on there. Almost the dial coloring of the 5070, which I think is a very deep dark black. You've got a brown crocodile strap there, and then if you show the deployment buckle, you have this big, rich deployment buckle that has the same grooving on the buckle as you do the bezel. And overall, like, I just think it's one of those watches that, was, as you've said in the past, is a back catalog piece. They probably didn't really sell too many. And I think when they come up, it's a contemporary size at 36 millimeters, so it's very wearable. It's actually the kind of watch that I probably would take off the croc strap. You even have the sticker there on the back. I would probably take off the croc strap, and I think that the waffle rubber strap that you see on 5065s and 5067s, the black waffle rubber would look absolutely awesome on this watch. Because it has a sporty appearance, I think that the black waffle rubber would give it a really cool look, and you could even probably get like a gold butterfly deployment buckle for it.
Yeah, a few things I love about this watch. First, the strength of that engine-turned bezel, and the fact that the engine turning actually matches the indices of the 5-minute markers of the dial. So you've got a functional bezel that you can actually use to read the watch. Gilt-style railroad track inboard for the minutes and seconds, and then try Roman numerals, applique in gold. A sensational dial that's pretty much two-tone but perfectly chosen gold and black. The watch also has a rather functional set of loomed leaf hands, which are an unusual choice for a sports watch. You generally see leaf hands on more dress-style watches, but the lugs of the watch, as well as the crown guard structure on the opposite side, clearly state that this is a sports watch, and it is a sporty watch with hard overtones about its periphery, the bezel, the lugs, the crown guards. This is a big 36. In terms of visual impact, this looks like a 38, a 39. It has no trouble keeping pace with modern sizes on the wrist because the individual details are so robust.
Some of the guys in the chat are asking, would you go bracelet on this? And I'm wondering, do you think this came on a gold bracelet? Because this would be awesome on that beaded gold bracelet that came on the Neptune.
My answer would be no. To put the 5081J on a bracelet would be too much. In my opinion, the bracelet would overpower the case. The case has a lot of strength in isolation.
On a gold bracelet.
It would be an ego trip on a bracelet. I think it would look better on the strap because the proportion of gold to black, as well as material to metal, is better balanced. You put that on a bracelet, and it's going to be one of those watches that just gets overpowered. It becomes a piece of man jewelry rather than a watch.
Yeah, I mean, and overall, it fits big. I mean, for only 36 millimeters, it has a very large presence. Yeah. This is 36, correct?
Yeah, it's a 30. Yeah. It's like a 36.5. It's a weird tweener size.
So, I mean, again, it's got, and it's remarkably legible too, because it's hard to see on the video, but there's luminescence on the hands as well as in the Roman numerals of the markers. Yeah. So at night it is going to glow, and you're going to be able to read it.
It's also in great shape. It looks like it's never been polished.
I don't even think it was ever. I mean, I don't even know if the guy even wore it.
Yeah, that's the best way to buy a used watch. Not perfect, but factory. It's only factory once.
So why don't we hop into...
Let's talk about this little thing.
Yeah, so this little thing sort of popped out at me. I just thought it was absolutely awesome. I really couldn't determine if it was a men's or ladies' watch. We have it here on a red crocodile strap, but overall, so it's a D serial AP, which means that it's from the, is it mid-80s?
It would be like mid to late 80s. The D serials ran into the 1990s, so it was actually a slow period during the late 80s. So this being, what was it, roughly 62,000? I'd say this is probably even an early 90s watch.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a salmon verging on pink dial. We've got Arabic numerals. Really cool case construction, and like I just picture this watch, like when I put it on my wrist, it fits pretty big. So, I think it's got to be probably at least 34 to 35 millimeters. Yeah.
And that was once considered to be a men's dress watch size.
Correct. So I'm thinking this on like a taupe strap could be very cool.
So next up will probably be my Like It.
Yeah, go
which
for
is a new Breitling Navitimer limited edition Swiss Air. I really, really like this watch. Why I like it, it's a throwback Breitling. It's what the brand, to me, represents. It's a throwback to the heyday of, when Breitling and aviation was really, really tied together, especially on the commercial side. So this is a limited production piece. It's not a limited edition. It's not numbered, so we don't have to worry about them having a specific cutoff. They'll probably just make a few batches, see what goes on, maybe make a little bit more. The hands are really nice on it. The colors are beautiful. On the case back, you have the Swiss Air logo. And this is just a nice Breitling special edition, which I think throughout the history of Breitling, especially up until the late 2010, 2013-ish years, they would always do nice editions like this. They always sell, and you pay
Right.
heritage. And so this is called the capsule collection, and they're going to be doing different editions with different commercial airliners. And I think the color is nice. It's a cool looking watch, and it just hits the nail on the head. And the reason why I like it so much, it just shows me that Breitling isn't so far gone.
Right.
That somebody there is like, hey, there's
somebody at the end of the tunnel's got a flashlight,
Yes.
and they're trying to figure it out.
yeah, it's like, hey, we're still there. We still respect the fanboys of Breitling, and I think this sells out. I think it does very well, and I'm excited to see different versions.
Yeah.
With the different, the old school commercial airlines of the heyday.
So it's almost like Breitling said, hey, we have a lot of history. We have a lot of presence in this watch. Why don't we take a model, just like the rest of the watch industry, that does really well for us and has significance, and make a retro version of it, and voila. And before the new direction of Breitling, before the catastrophe that was the Navitimer 8, this is the Breitling that sold, right? The limited edition Navitimer was their bread and butter piece. So I like this watch. I think it does well for them. I like the color scheme of it. I think you go back to classic Navitimer limited editions with this, with the red and the outer white chapter ring. It's a handsome dial. I appreciate the date at that position, offset, hidden date. I think it's a good mix of like vintage and new era. I would have liked to have seen those top and bottom stitches red, just to kind of throw pop the strap.
That'd have been a nice
But
touch.
that's nitpicking at this point. I think for what it is, it's going to be a pretty solid performer, definitely compared to some of the stuff that Breitling's pushing out right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I see a lot of hate in the chat there. They think it's ugly, but I want you to, go home and Google tonight and Google what Breitling has made last year and this. And
Yeah,
tell me
it's a vast improvement over some of the stuff.
Exactly. If you wouldn't rather seen more things that look like this versus, the other pieces that have been coming out.
No problem with the brand, going back to what's strong for them versus after a failure. Like, make a solid decision and say, hey, listen, that's probably what we shouldn't have done. Let's figure out, I'm not saying that's where the brand's going, but for them to put out a special edition, and it's a special production, right? So
not numbered.
if it does really well, guess what? We'll probably see another edition, and then another one after that. And then after the fourth one, then we'll be complaining that there's too many of them. So, but I give kudos to Breitling for that watch. I think it's a stab in the right direction. So, going to another pilot watch. It's interesting. I'm starting to deduct a logic here. And we did this separately, so I don't know. It's just weird. So here we have, we'll pull up the picture. This is your IWC, and this is the new Timezoner.
Strong pick.
So, yeah, you guys know I love OD green. It's not why I picked this watch, because there's a bronze 41 millimeter Spitfire case that has a green dial, which is gorgeous too. But of the four pieces that they announced pre-SIHH, I think this one deserves the nod. And aside from its size, because it is 46 millimeters, I actually really, really like this watch. And the reason why I like this watch is it's a cleaner version of the original Timezoner, right? Because it's not a chronograph. And it implements, you've heard of Vogard, right? Vogard watches from back in the day. Anyhow, I know you guys have probably seen them, researched them. Anyways, I thought they were a cool brand before they got acquired by IWC. IWC basically, before the first Timezoner came out, bought this company called Vogard,
Oh, no, I remember.
which had a lever that swung down and you rotated the bezel to change the GMT hand. And it was a patent that they came out with. It was very clever. And IWC obviously saw, some attributes to that, so they bought the company, and they came out with the Timezoner. So you rotate the bezel to change the GMT
So
hand,
cool.
and the mechanism's pretty cool, but it's a cluttered mechanism. And the chronograph, to me, the watch was just way too cluttered.
A lot of things.
So,
going on
anyways,
there.
while I wouldn't say this is like hands down my favorite thing that I've seen so far, I do like it a lot, and I think it's a honest, very, very nice direction for this watch. It gives you a lot of utility. It's very simple. And I think it's a pretty watch as well. It's got some cream markers, some airs back to a kind of a cool pilot aesthetic.